Alright guys, I literally just woke up. Story number 2 is about how I networked, or I met somebody and he ended up being in my network, and I mean, really just a friend, you know. I say in my network because I'm trying to phrase it for you guys out there who are searching for a specific topic. But really what I mean is he's a friend that I lean on in the business. I was working for Guitar Center in Hallandale Beach, Miami, Florida. And they had me put on some kind of like weekend, like just super basic 1-hour intro to Pro Tools. And this girl showed up and she was a songwriter. And we started talking more and more and exchanged info and kept in touch. And through her, I did a little bit of studio work as an engineer, recording vocals for some of her singers. And after that was kind of done, and that wasn't really what I was looking to do, we kept in touch though, because although, you know, we had a conversation where that's not really what I wanted to do, even though I could do it. There's no harm in that, you know. Everybody kind of is looking for their fit, and talking to other people help. And sometimes you do things, and I just realized I really did not want to be an engineer that was cutting R&B vocals at the time. So she said, you need to hit up my buddy. And I did hit him up, and we formed kind of a slight friendship over 1 or 2 conversations, and one thing led to another, and he invited me out to his studio, which is out in western Fort Lauderdale or western West Palm Beach, so closer towards the middle of the state, sort of. But I started going out there and basically just hanging out with him, because at that time I was very mystified by mixing, and I kind of thought mixing was more than it really was. And through going out to his studio, I realized that his studio, which was really a multimedia location, he had a huge green screen, multiple DJ setups, multiple live rooms and mixing areas. So it was cool. You could do audio and video there. We just kept in touch. His studio was very much so a family affair, if you will. I met his kids, his wife, a couple times. His family would bring Jamaican food because they were from Jamaica to the studio, and it was super cool because they knew that at that time I was an extremely strict vegan. So being that they were Jamaican, they would bring Ital cooking to the studio for me. Everybody would eat Jamaican, including me, but my Jamaican was Ital style, or Ital cooking. And if you don't know what that is, and you're vegan or vegetarian, you should go look it up. It's cool. And sometimes I would just hang out and watch, and other times I would have the chance to basically take over Studio B. Really, I could have done that whenever I wanted to. I just kind of got stuck between a rock and a hard place of how far this place was from my house and working to pay rent. So it's a shame. If it were closer to where I was, I would have been there a lot more. But the responsibilities of having to work and pay rent, but then also being in kind of a toxic relationship, messed me up. So little life lesson for you there too. Sometimes it really is better to end something and actually progress in your career than it is to try to please everybody, please your dream by going out and working at that, but also please somebody who's toxic in your life anyways, and too much alcohol and all that stuff. So but yeah, we just kept in touch, and I was kind of hard-headed at the time because Studio B was basically open to me whenever I wanted. The thing about it was, though, and this was kind of true because of the way technology had changed, while I appreciated having Studio B basically anytime I wanted, I kind of sort of had Studio B in my bedroom. I didn't. I mean, he had better monitors and he had way more samples and synths, but when it really got down to it, after a few sessions in Studio B, I realized I'm doing the same thing at home. Now, at that time, he had two things that were very, very helpful, and this started to get me on my path of changing the way I looked at things, but I wasn't quite there yet, which is why I didn't take advantage yet. It was, he had every sample that Vengeance Sounds had come out with up until that point, and he had the entire Nexus expansion suite. So basically at that time, if I wanted to, I mean, I could have made modern EDM in his studio easily, which is unbelievable to me when I say it now, because I had those tools at my disposal pretty much for free, except for the gas that it would take me to drive back and forth from the studio, which was an hour each way. And this was at around, what was that, 2015, I think? 2016, somewhere around there. Late 2014, probably 2015, maybe early 2016. So Big Room, right? I mean, for anybody who's into electronic music, what comes to mind that was on the main stage is Big Room, more or less. And here I am saying he's got every Vengeance sample and every Nexus expansion that existed at that time. So that was the one leg up that he really had on me. At home, I think I was messing with some Vengeance samples, probably a subscription to Splice, and probably Massive and Sylenth is probably what I had at that time. I don't think I had Spire yet, and I don't think that Serum existed yet, or if it did, it wasn't as popular as it is now, but it didn't matter, because at that time, if you had Massive and Sylenth and Splice and some Vengeance samples, you should pretty much be able to do it, bro. So that's why I say I was kind of conflicted, because that's what my studio had. His studio had much more than mine, but what really happened there was I didn't have the skill. I had the tools. I mean, I had Massive, I had Sylenth. All you had to do was go online and search out presets for those synths if you suck at sound design. And I had Vengeance Electro sound packs, so getting that Big Room sound wouldn't have been that big of a deal. And even if I didn't have Vengeance sound packs, I had a subscription to Splice, so it wouldn't have been that hard to search out a modern day kick, clap, snare, and hi-hat and get it going. So the tools were there. Even though Brian had way more at his studio, the tools were there. What wasn't there was the confidence, the skill, and the maturity to stop being broke while also, and that's the key, while also trying to craft my own sound. Because just a quick detour on why I say that, crafting your own sound with no money is usually pretty darn hard to bring to market. It would have been way better for me to follow suit and just create probably Big Room or techno or some form of bass music, because basically I'm thinking of Ultra at that time, since I was living in South Florida. So either main stage, so Big Room at that time, techno or tech house, the Carl Cox and Friends stage, or bass music, because obviously at that time there was a ton of bass artists, but Skrillex and Diplo and, their collaboration with Bieber and all that really were moving things and shifting things in the scene. So, yeah, the maturity to make one of those sounds very well. All the tools were there. I just wasn't doing it. And had I done that, I probably would have been able to get my foot in the door and work my way in and then craft the sound that I wanted. Instead, I was very hard-headed and just wanted to create, which is good, but my expectations of wanting to tour and get out there were very high. So here I am, no money to spend in marketing whatsoever. This complete drive to craft a completely new and original sound, which is great. But, you know, and it sounds like the setting for a fairy tale story, and to a degree it is. The problem with that fairy tale story is that unlike a movie where a writer can change things at the flick of a key on a keyboard or the stroke of a pen, this was real life. And there's a ton of people out there right now that are making the same mistake as me, where they have an original sound, but no one hears it because they have 12 followers on SoundCloud, and half of them are his family or her family. They live in some little town in USA, and that's that. You know, if you don't have money to market it, it really almost doesn't matter how good or how creative it is. You need to get it out to people, you know, especially fans, because I think a lot of industry people are going to be reluctant to take on something that's too original and dump money into it, or time, because people need to pay their rent and pay their car payment, feed their kids. So that's my thoughts on that. But I digress from Studio B versus my studio setup and decisions and skill. I still lean on that guy to this day. He and his family moved out to California. He has an online radio station. He was the reason why I got to meet Dave Way and be mentored by Dave Way, who is a great mix engineer, worked on Sons of Anarchy and a bunch of projects over the years. Had a chance to hang out at Noise Match Studios in Miami. He set all that up for me, and it was great. And now he's out in California, and he's just a friend. And if you want to phrase it differently for the sake of this video, he's part of my network. He's a great guy though, and he and, like I was talking about in the previous story, Ed out in Seattle, both of them are like dads to me. And I know for a fact I'm like a son to them. And if any of us ever needed anything, one phone call is all it would take. Because there's that camaraderie in music where it's like, we're all in it. We're all so in love with this movement and this business that it's worth the struggle. You know? It's a completely different mentality when we all get together for dinner than it is when, I don't know, a bunch of litigation lawyers get together for dinner. I know that sounds funny, but there's a camaraderie, almost like being on a team. You know, we've all had the struggle of music, all of us, and that struggle brings you closer together, and that, it just means something. I can't explain it. I'm sure you know what I mean if you've ever been on a team, maybe even a team that wasn't elite and wildly amazing. You have ups, you have downs, and the downs bring you together for sure, and it makes the ups so much sweeter. So as we all lean on each other and still continue to carve out our careers, it's sweet when we have a breakthrough and we celebrate and we help each other as much as we can. So I hope that's helpful to you guys. But you can just see how basically working at Guitar Center in a hotbed area like Miami was very helpful to me. It also helped me launch a business, which I'm not going to talk about But yeah, you know, and then yet knowing people in Seattle, just basically going to a protest, I had no clue I was gonna meet a mastering engineer that works on legendary Seattle artist stuff all the time, like it's no big deal. So yeah, you know, and those were the times when I wasn't trying, by the way. These weren't times where I got up, brushed my hair, and set out to meet somebody in the music business. Those were the days that I failed. Those were the days where I came off as somebody that I'm not, because I was being somebody that I was not. I was forcing networking, and it looked desperate. It looked like I was trying too hard, and it didn't work. But the times where I made my most valuable contacts were times where I was just chilling, had no expectations, and didn't even know what I was about to walk into. And the same is true for a lot of guys. I think it was Machine Gun Kelly. No, it was some producer. I can't remember who the heck it is now, but this producer, it was a guy, a male, and he was talking about, and I only say that because maybe you've heard this story before, you could zero down who it is. He went to a party at Post Malone's house, and when he was at Post Malone's house, he said, oh, it was Diplo, that's who it was. It was something to the effect of, like, you know, Post Malone had this like home studio set up that was kind of cool and was just playing tracks, and we were all sitting around listening, and he was having a party, and I met this other artist, and one thing led to another, and he and Diplo were talking, and as he and Diplo were talking, they just felt a bond, exchanged numbers or contact info in one aspect or another, and before this artist knew it, he was singing on a Diplo track, and that was it. You know, now he has a track with Diplo. Now how successful that track was, I don't know. You know, I don't know. But the point is that it's Diplo, you know? And, you know, first of all, like, if you're a singer and you're not as well known as Diplo or Post Malone, first of all, when you have a chance to